Hello everyone, this is your friendly neighborhood host, JT Wheatley from the History of Comic Books podcast, guest hosting this Days of Halloween, where I'm going to give you my 4 picks for Halloween viewing. First up, we're going with the classic Halloween film for Halloween viewing, and that is the David Cronenberg classic 1986 film The Fly, which is a remake of the 1958 film that starred Vincent Price, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but Vincent Price was not the Fly in that one. In this one, though, the film stars Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Jeff Goldblum is a scientist who has figured out how to teleport matter from one spot to another, like you see on Star Trek, and he gets the reporter Gina Davis to cover it, but he cannot figure out how to teleport the living creatures, because, that's a big deal. Granted, if you're able to teleport inanimate objects, that's a pretty big deal too, but he wants to make that last step to teleport a living creature. The problem is, every time he does it, they're in the hamburger meat, and, but he finally figured out a way to do it. And meanwhile, he's also falling in love with Gina Davis' character, and they have fantastic chemistry in the film, which is incidentally, off camera, these two were falling in love in real life. They had a relationship for a while after this film. One night, Jeff Goldblum, his character, he gets drunk, decides to teleport himself, but he managed to teleport a fly with him, and as a result, him and the fly start to slowly merge together in one of the great body horror films ever made. What's great about this film is that this is not a big kill cut, it's more psychological and physiological horror too, because what you see with the brilliant makeup effects, this movie won an Oscar for visual effects. You see him slowly transform to a giant human fly, and it's easy to like. It's David Cronenberg. David Cronenberg is arguably the master when it comes to body horror, like all his past films, Shivers, other future films and so forth. He really knows how to get into your brain, the horror of when your body starts to transform against this will, it does things it doesn't want, and this one is just monstrous and downright creepy. Great big performances, a truly classic film. Definitely check it out. It's a testament to how to do a great remake. Definitely pick it up. That is my classic watch of for Halloween this season. Now for my overlooked horror film, it's going to be one starring this guy right here, and it may be strange me calling it an overlooked film, but it is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Now you're wondering, well wait, Popular is a fairly big hit, but honestly I think with the HTO and the Rob Zombie remakes, now the more current kind of sequels in which they actually skip over to and they go straight from Halloween to Halloween 2018 and now Halloween Kills coming up. I feel like Halloween 4 gets overlooked because it's actually still a pretty solid film, directed by Dwight H. Little. It was made in 1988, just in time for the 10-year anniversary, and this one stars a young Jamie, who is the daughter of Laurie Strode. This is Jamie Strode, who's sadly Laurie Strode and her husband have passed away, leaving Jamie living with an adopted family, and it's on the night of Halloween. And when Michael Myers, her evil uncle, who's in a home convalescing, finds out that he has a niece out there he can kill, well, that apparently stirs him to break out the home and come looking for her on Halloween night back in Haddonfield. And of course, old Professor Loomis, played by the great Donald Pleasance, has to come following after him. It's very by the numbers in many ways, because they want to go back to the basics. Because unfortunately, even though I will, as we have talked about before, Halloween 3 is a much overlooked film. 4 was like, let's bring back Michael Myers. Back to the basics. This Michael Myers killing a bunch of people. Oh yeah, Michael Myers, even when he's not there, he kind of haunts the town of Haddonfield now, because we literally become their boogeyman, literally now. It's really cool how proactive he is. Like, he takes steps to cut the town off. He eliminates the power lines. He gets the phone lines. What he does to the police force is insane. Like, yeah, Myers apparently convalescing in the insane asylum for 10 years. Builds up the killing mojo, because he serves a body count in this one. This is also where Danielle Harris, who got her start, great young kid, and the future Scream Queen, would come back in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies and other great Halloween films, not Halloween films, but horror films in general. But yeah, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, a nice overlooked film. I know with the new ones coming out, you kind of like them, but go back and watch this one. Do not watch 5 and 6. That's also the reason why 4 gets overlooked, because people blame 4 for 5 and 6. That wasn't 4's fault. 4 laid a great template, and I don't know what happened with those movies. And this is a kind of a horror-adjacent film, but I've always really enjoyed it, and that is the Alex Proyas' Dark City, released in 1998. And this is it's almost a mystery film noir film with a great, nice horror twist, where it basically plays Rufus Sewell, who wakes up in his hotel room, no knowledge of who he is, and there's a dead woman in the bed where he's staying, and next thing you know, he's being chased by the cops, and also these strange creatures called the Strangers. They're chasing after him for some reason, and he starts to notice that at a certain time in this city, in which you never see the sun, it's always dark, hence the term Dark City, everyone falls asleep, and the city starts to change, and suddenly people get moved around. What is this place, this Dark City where he's stuck in, and what is his role in it, and why is he doing it when he can't fall asleep? So there's this great horror element to it. Rufus Sewell's great in it, and Kiefer Sutherland gives a great character performance. He's really like nothing you've ever seen as this doctor who knows more about Dark City than he's letting on. But the Blu-ray, go with the director's cut. Even though the original cut, the theatrical cut of the film does a really good job too, the director's cut does a better job of not giving away what Dark City is starting out, or what the Strangers are. So I would watch that first. At a certain time, maybe check out the theatrical cut, because interesting enough, this movie got some big acclaim from some certain critics. Siskel and Ebert both gave it 2 thumbs up, and Roger Ebert called it the best film in 1998, and even recorded a commentary track which you can listen to on that Blu-ray. Could argue a cult film as well. It was one of those films that got blown over when Titanic was in movie theaters. That happens. So yeah, definitely check out Dark City. Really cool movie. Great horror adjacent film to check out. And finally, of the movies to watch, a true classic, and that is the 1990 Nightbreed by the horror master Clive Barker. Now, this is actually based on Cobble, a short story that Clive Barker wrote, and it's about this man named Boone who is accused of being a serial killer, but he has these strange dreams of this place called Midian, which is filled with these strange monsters, and he ends up going down there and he finds out this Midian is like this place where all the supernatural creatures hide and live, and apparently Boone has a connection to them. Meanwhile, though, the people that think he's a serial killer, along with his girlfriend who thinks he's innocent, comes running after him. And it should be noted the reason why Boone thinks he's a serial killer, because his psychologist says he is one. But when your psychologist is played by David Cronenberg, you shouldn't trust what the dude says. He's David Cronenberg. This film, sadly, when Clive Barker made this, after he made Hellraiser, he made a name for himself as a horror director. He wanted to make the big budget horror movie epic about monsters. Now, people really are monsters, because there's a great dynamic between the humans and the monsters in this. Like, who's the real monster here? Because the monsters in Midian, it's like, hey, we just want to hang out and live our lives. No, humans are like, no, you're scary, you gotta die. And of course, some of his old favorites like Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead in the Hellraiser films, are in this film as well. They didn't know what to do with this movie because it was so weird and so unique. They chopped it up with this horrible theatrical cut. Clive Barker hated it, even though the theatrical cut is not bad to watch. It still takes a lot of the subtext and the characterization of the story out of it. And Clive Barker was disappointed for years afterwards. And after he made the Lord of the Illusions, his last film, he was just done with filmmaking. He couldn't do it anymore, which is sad because he's a really great director. He wanted his original cut back. Sadly, the negative was lost for years. They were able to find a video copy of it, and they were able to make what was called the Cabal cut, this fan cut where they included all the scenes back in. Thankfully, they were able to finally find the negative to all the Nightbreed footage, and they were able to use that to make Clive Barker's director's cut, which was released, of course, by Shout Factory back in 2014, and he's glad that this is the version you get to see. So yeah, definitely check out the Shout Factory director's cut version of the 1990s Nightbreed. That's a true horror classic, always worth checking out. Since I am the history of comic book guy, then the classic The Tomb of Dracula by Marvel Comics that was released from 1972 to 1979. This was an 80-issue series in which one of Dracula's descendants, Frank Drake, goes to his castle that he's inherited, thinking it's going to be worth a lot of money, and he finds this tomb with a skeleton with a stake through his heart. He goes, well, this is weird, pulls the stake out, and sure enough, that stake was keeping Dracula from reviving, and that, of course, with Dracula now revived, that brings back taking over the world world with the undead, and it brings out some descendants of his old enemies, such as Rachel Van Helsing, and also the Harkers, led by Quincy Harker, who was a descendant of Jonathan and Mina Harker from the original story as well. What made that series so great was not only it was originally written by Jerry Conway, great Marvel writer, but he left after a few issues, and Gardner Fox came in. But finally, when Marv Wolfman came in around issue number 10, that's when the series really took off. That's when they introduced the classic Marvel horror character Blade. But it has some great characters like Rachel Van Helsing, this badass crossbow wielding vampire hunter. Quincy Harker is this older guy, but he's in a wheelchair. But his wheelchair has all these great devices to kill vampires with. He has stakes pop out of his wheels. But also the Dracula himself is a great. He's like a mixture of a classic Dracula in modern times. So they play on that a lot. Like Dracula's like this olden warrior who comes back to modern times, and Gene Colan, who's the artist throughout the entire series, the 8-year issue run, with brilliant inks by Tom Bonner. He based the look on a combination of the Christopher Lee and Jack Palance Draculas from their respective movies, and he's just this great dynamic character. He has nobility to him. He has like a smidgen of humanity. Like every now and then he'll do the right thing, but mostly he's the villain. And that's the cool thing about Tomb of Dracula. It's a comic book in which the star is the villain. And of course, as you know, being to public domain, Marvel was allowed to bring Dracula into the Marvel Universe. He actually goes against other Marvel heroes, because as I mentioned before, Blade appears in this. He fights Spider-Man at one point, and Dracula is now a character in Marvel to this day thanks to this series. This was a true classic series. It's considered to this day one of the great horror comic book series of all time, one of the best series in the 1990s. Definitely check that out if you want some good horror material. Great read, and Marvel's doing a great job recollecting that series in these nice thick volumes, around $20-$30, and you get like 12 issues worth of comics. Once you read Tomb of Dracula, you're going to realize just how badly they screwed up on Blade Trinity. They should use Tomb of Dracula more for the base. Tomb of Dracula, great horror adjacent material. And with that being said, I'm going to do a quick review of everything. So, for your Halloween viewing, my 4 picks are, of course, the classic David Cronenberg's The Fly, the overlooked one, Howling for The Return of Michael Myers, and for some interesting ones, Alice Bruce's Dark City, a nice horror adjacent film, good horror stuff in there, and of course the classic Clive Barker's Nightbreed, the director's cut, highly recommended. Or Nightbreed anyway is not recommended, but definitely get the director's cut by Clive Barker. And for some good reading material, look no further than Tomb of Dracula from Marvel Comics. Thank you everyone for joining me. If you like me rambling, or if not, doesn't matter, but please look for me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr, and so forth. I am History of Comics Podcast, and also look for the History of Comics Podcast on all your podcasting platforms, Apple, Spreaker, Trencher, and so forth. And also don't forget to click and treat, like, share, and subscribe to this great video, and have a happy Halloween, everyone. Alright. And what better way to do material? And here I am flipping the script. More stuff for James to get on the book reel. Tell me it's not recording. This is what The Fly. And every now and then there's a. Okay, what's the line? And this one is just brilliant work in general, though. And I've lost my spot. Yep, here we are. Well, I was talking about how they were trying to restore Nightbreed back to the original cut that Clive Barker wanted, and that is. And I need to get my darn script out again. The Dark City, because wait, they've done. I need to check something real quick, and let's see, make sure you're recording. Yes, you're still recording. And now, for my next 2 films. Oh, you're gonna get so much material, James. So much material. You got something? I got check something. Right. To talk about. And those are. Recording? You're recording. Alright, good. Break a leg. Alright, try that thing. Okay, got more material for the blooper reel here, dude. Marks. Alright. Ah, James, you're gonna get some good material in this junk.
This guy!
Yeah, this guy. And yeah, but
Alright.
where were we? Oh yes,